My fiancé betrayed me publicly. After I invested $30,000 in his future, the champagne bottle exploded over my head at 7:43 p.m., soaking my hair, my dress, and every shred of dignity I had left. My fiancé Marcus stood there holding the empty bottle, laughing. His entire family was laughing, his friends were filming, and I had no idea why. 20 minutes earlier, everything had been perfect. We were at Luminaire, the most exclusive rooftop restaurant in the city, the kind of place where reservations take 3 months and a single appetizer costs more than most people's weekly groceries. Marcus had insisted on celebrating here. Nothing but the best for my launch party, he'd said. His launch party? For the tech startup I'd funded with my entire savings, $30,000, every penny I'd saved since I was 16, money from summer jobs, freelance graphic design work, birthday gifts from my grandmother. I'd handed it all over 6 months ago when Marcus pitched me his revolutionary app idea. "Babe, this is going to change everything," he'd promised, his hazel eyes bright with excitement. Connect Space will be the next big social platform. We'll be millionaires by 30, and you'll be there with me from day one, my partner, my wife. I'd believed every word. I'd been so stupid. Now, standing in that restaurant with champagne dripping down my face, I watched Marcus wrap his arm around Sienna Chen, his business advisor, and pull her close. "Speech! Speech!" someone shouted. Marcus grinned, that charming smile that had first attracted me 3 years ago when we met at a coffee shop. He'd spilled his latte on my laptop, apologized profusely, and somehow turned a disaster into our first date within 5 minutes. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus announced, his voice carrying across the rooftop. The city skyline glittered behind him, a perfect backdrop for his perfect moment. Tonight, we're celebrating the official launch of Connect Space. But more importantly, I want to thank the woman who made this all possible. My heart swelled. Despite the champagne shower, which I'd assumed was just his friends being rowdy, maybe this was all building to something good. A public thank you, an acknowledgement of my sacrifice. Marcus turned to Sienna. "Sienna, you're brilliant, dedicated, and you believed in this vision when no one else did. You invested your time, your expertise, and your faith in me. This company exists because of you." The words hit me like physical blows. I stood there, champagne still dripping, watching my fiancé praise another woman for my investment. "Wait," I said, my voice barely audible over the music. "Marcus?" He glanced at me, and for just a second, something flickered across his face. Annoyance? Guilt? Then it was gone, replaced by that charming smile. "Oh, babe, sorry about the champagne." The guys got a little carried away. He laughed, turning back to his audience. "Anyway, as I was saying, Marcus, I need to talk to you." My voice was stronger now. "Can it wait? I'm kind of in the middle of something." 50 people were watching us, his parents, his college friends, his new investors, and Sienna, standing beside him like she belonged there, like I didn't. "No," I said, "it can't wait." The music seemed to lower, or maybe my ears were just ringing. Marcus sighed, the way you'd sigh at a child interrupting adults. "Fine." "What?" "You just thanked Sienna for investing in your company." "Yeah, she's been incredible. Did you know she has an MBA from Stanford? Her insights on user acquisition have been—" "I invested $30,000 in this company, Marcus." Silence spread across the rooftop like spilled wine. Marcus blinked. "Babe, we talked about this. That was a personal loan to help me out. This is different. Sienna is an actual business partner." My brain couldn't process his words. They didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. "A personal loan?" I repeated. "Marcus, I gave you my life savings. You said I'd be listed as a co-founder. You showed me incorporation papers with my name on them." "Jesus, Layla, you're making a scene." His voice had an edge now, the charm cracking. Those were just drafts. I never filed them. And honestly, $30,000 isn't that much in the startup world. My dad's friend invested $200,000. He said it so casually, like my sacrifice meant nothing, like I meant nothing. You told me we were building this together, I said, and I hated how my voice shook. You said, I said a lot of things. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. Look, you're a great girl, Layla. But let's be real. You're a freelance graphic designer who makes logos for small businesses. Sienna has connections to Silicon Valley investors. She's already secured our Series A funding. What exactly are you bringing to the table? The question hung in the air between us. What was I bringing to the table? Just my money, my trust, my future. The engagement, I whispered. Marcus, we're supposed to get married in 4 months. Something shifted in his expression. He glanced back at Sienna, then at his parents, then at me. And I knew before he said it. About that? He reached into his pocket and pulled out my grandmother's ring, the one I'd inherited when she passed, the one I'd worn on my left hand for 18 months. I think we need to take a step back, reevaluate things. You're great, but I'm in a different place now. Building a company, expanding my network. I need someone who can grow with me. He handed me the ring like it was a receipt he no longer needed. You're breaking up with me? I stared at the ring in my palm. Now? Here? It's better this way. Clean break. He actually smiled. We can still be friends. Behind him, Sienna watched with an eye-bite expression I couldn't read. His friends had their phones out, recording every moment of my humiliation. This was planned. The realization crashed over me like ice water. This entire party, the venue, the timing, the public setting, it was all calculated. He'd chosen the most humiliating way possible to discard me. A show for his new world, his new life, a life I'd paid for. $30,000, I said again, because my brain couldn't move past it. Marcus, that's legally my investment in your company. I have bank statements, transfer records, emails where you outline my ownership percentage. His smile vanished. You're really going to make this difficult? I want my money back. That money is gone, Layla. It went into the business, and technically, since we were engaged, it could be considered a gift. A gift? My voice rose. You said it was an investment. I don't have a contract that says that. Do you? He tilted his head, mock sympathy on his face. Verbal agreements between couples aren't exactly legally binding. Ask any lawyer. He'd thought of everything. Marcus Reed, the man I'd loved for 3 years, had systematically planned to take my money and discard me like trash. And he was smiling about it. You should go, he said quietly. You're embarrassing yourself. I looked around the rooftop, at the 50 faces watching me. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked entertained. No one looked like they were going to help. I was alone. But here's what Marcus didn't know, couldn't know, because I'd never told him. I'd learned from the best how to handle betrayal. My mother had built 3 successful businesses after my father cleaned out their joint accounts and fled to Costa Rica. She'd taught me at 14 years old. Layla, trust is beautiful, but documentation is survival. I had documents. I had screenshots. I had emails, texts, and recorded phone calls where Marcus explicitly detailed my ownership stake, my co-founder status, and my financial investment terms. I'd backed everything up the moment I transferred the money because my mother's voice had echoed in my head. Protect yourself, always. But standing there on that rooftop, champagne-soaked and heartbroken, I didn't say any of that. I just smiled. You're right, I said softly. I should go. I turned and walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on the polished floor. Behind me, the party music resumed. Someone laughed. Life moved on. But as I reached the elevator, I pulled out my phone and sent 3 quick messages. First, to my lawyer, a family friend who'd known me since childhood. Second, to my cousin Jordan, who worked in venture capital and knew every investor in the city's tech scene. Third, to myself, a simple reminder. They think they've won. Let them think that. The elevator doors closed, and I saw my reflection in the polished metal. Mascara running, dress ruined, hair wet with champagne. I looked like a victim. I looked exactly how they wanted me to look. I smiled at my reflection, because Marcus had made one critical mistake. He'd assumed I would crumble. He'd assumed I'd cry, beg, and fade away into the background of his successful new life. He'd assumed I was weak. But weakness and patience look very similar from the outside. And I'd learned a long time ago that the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. It's served systematically, legally, and with documentation. The game had just begun, and Marcus had no idea he was playing. Part 2. The Investigation. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. with a splitting headache and a crystal-clear plan. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I'd expected to spend the night sobbing into my pillow like every breakup movie ever made. Instead, I'd barely slept, my mind racing through every conversation, every document, every detail of the last 6 months. My studio apartment, the same one I'd been living in since college because I'd poured my savings into Marcus instead of a better place, looked exactly the same. Same second-hand furniture. Same motivational posters about dream big. Same coffee maker that only worked if you hit it at exactly the right angle. Everything looked the same. But I was different. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started working. First task, organize the evidence. I had been meticulous, thank God. Every email Marcus sent about the business, every text message discussing ownership percentages, every bank transfer with notes like Connect Space Investment and startup funding for company formation. In one email from 4 months ago, Marcus had written, "Babe, you're going to be listed as co-founder and CFO once we incorporate. Your $30K gets you 25% equity. This is our dream." Our dream. I screenshot everything and organized it into folders: communication, financial records, promises, timeline. My phone buzzed. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, had responded to my midnight message. "Come to my office at 9 a.m. Bring everything." Second task, research. I opened LinkedIn and searched for Connect Space. Marcus had launched the company page 3 months ago. According to the About section, the company had 3 listed founders: Marcus Reed, CEO Sienna Chen, COO David Park, CTO, no mention of me. I clicked through to Sienna's profile. Stanford MBA, just like Marcus said. Before Connect Space, she'd worked at 2 startups that had both failed. She had 2,000 connections and posted constantly about disrupting social media and innovative engagement strategies. Her recent posts made my stomach turn. Excited to announce Connect Space's official launch, building something special with an amazing team. Startup life. Tech innovation. The post had been made yesterday at 8 p.m., right during the party. It had 347 likes. I clicked on the Yo tagged photos. There he was, Marcus, smiling with Sienna, both holding champagne glasses. The caption from someone named Brett: "Power couple alert. Marcus and Sienna are going to change the game." Power couple. I scrolled further back through Sienna's profile. 3 months ago, she'd posted a photo at a tech conference in Austin. Marcus was in the background. The comment thread included someone asking, "Is that your boyfriend?" She'd responded with a winking emoji. 3 months ago. We were still engaged 3 months ago. I'd been planning our wedding, comparing flower arrangements, and arguing with my mother about whether we needed a videographer. And Marcus had been in Austin with Sienna, letting people think they were together. I kept digging. David Park, the CTO, had a more technical profile. MIT computer science degree, worked at Google for 2 years. His recent activity showed he'd been brought onto ConnectSpace just 6 weeks ago. I found an interview with a tech blog from last week. The headline, ConnectSpace, the next evolution in social networking. The article quoted Marcus extensively. "We're not just building another app. We're creating a space where authentic connections can thrive. My co-founder Sienna and I saw a gap in the market." My co-founder Sienna. Not me. Never me. The article mentioned that ConnectSpace had secured $500,000 in seed funding from private investors and strategic partners. $500,000. Marcus had told me he needed my $30,000 desperately, that it was the difference between launching and failure. He'd made it sound like my contribution was essential, life or death, but he'd actually secured $500,000. My investment was pocket change to him. So why had he taken it? Third task, follow the money. I logged into my bank account and pulled up the transfer from 6 months ago. March 15th, $30,000 wired to Marcus Reed, ConnectSpace, LLC. At least I'd been smart enough to include the company name in the transfer note. I'd also made Marcus sign a handwritten promissory note after my mother insisted. He'd been annoyed. "Babe, don't you trust me?" But he'd signed it. The note stated that my $30,000 would be converted to equity in ConnectSpace LLC upon official incorporation. I had that document. I'd photographed it and stored it in 3 different places. Marcus had lied when he said I had no contract. He just assumed I wouldn't fight back. My phone buzzed again. This time, my cousin Jordan. "Holy shit, Layla. Just saw the news about ConnectSpace. Please tell me you got out before this disaster." I called him immediately. "Jordan, what are you talking about?" "You don't know?" He sounded genuinely surprised. "Marcus Reed's startup is already in trouble. The app launched yesterday, and it's getting destroyed in reviews. Apparently, it's basically a clone of 3 existing platforms, with worse functionality. Tech blogs are tearing it apart, and I heard from a friend in the VC world that Marcus totally misrepresented his user projections to investors." My heart started pounding. What does that mean? It means his investors are pissed. There's talk about fraud investigations. Some of his seed funding came from people who were promised metrics that don't exist. The app was supposed to have 10,000 beta users before launch. It had about 300, and most of those were his personal contacts who downloaded it once and never used it. Marcus had lied to investors. "Jordan, I need your help," I said. "I invested $30,000 in his company 6 months ago. He promised me equity and co-founder status. Yesterday, he broke up with me at his launch party and said my investment was just a personal gift." Silence on the other end. Then, "He stole your money?" "Essentially." "Layla, if what you're telling me is true, and if he's also lying to investors, Marcus isn't just a bad boyfriend. He's potentially looking at securities fraud. And if his company is failing this fast, you need to move immediately before there's nothing left to recover." "What do I do?" "Get a lawyer, file a lawsuit, and Layla?" His voice got serious. "Warn any other investors you can find. If Marcus is going down, people need to know." After hanging up with Jordan, I did something I hadn't planned. I created a fake LinkedIn profile. Jessica Moore, a freelance tech journalist interested in covering emerging startups. I used a stock photo and spent an hour making the profile look legitimate, adding fake articles and connections. Then I messaged David Park, the CTO. "Hi, David. I'm writing a piece on ConnectSpace and would love to get the technical perspective. Would you be available for a brief call?" He responded within 30 minutes. "Sure. How about this afternoon at 2?" At 9 a.m., I sat in Patricia Chen's law office, watching her review my documents with increasingly wide eyes. Patricia was my mother's college roommate and had handled my grandmother's will. She was 53, sharp as a blade, and had a reputation for destroying opponents in court. "This is clear-cut," she said finally. "Marcus Reed is an idiot." "Can we get my money back?" "We can do better than that." She smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. "He made promises of equity in writing. He took your investment for a company, and based on what you're telling me about his investor fraud, we can argue you're entitled to either your equity stake or financial damages. But Layla, I need to ask, what do you want here?" "What do I want? Revenge? Justice? Your money? His public humiliation? Be honest with me, because it affects our strategy." I thought about Marcus's face when he handed me my ring back, the casual cruelty in his voice, the laughter of his friends. "I want him to regret ever meeting me," I said, quietly. "I want everyone who laughed at me yesterday to know exactly who he is, and I want my money back with interest." Patricia nodded slowly. "Then here's what we're going to do." She outlined the plan. Step 1. File a civil lawsuit against Marcus and ConnectSpace LLC for breach of contract, fraud, and misappropriation of funds. Step 2. File a complaint with the State Securities Board regarding his misrepresentation to investors. Step 3. Ensure the lawsuit becomes public record and reaches every tech blog and investor network in the city. "His company is already shaky," Patricia said. "This will destroy his credibility completely. No investor will touch him. No future partner will trust him. And that's before we win the actual case and force him to pay you back." "How long will it take?" "Months, possibly a year. But I can move quickly on the initial filings. We'll have papers served to him within a week." A week. I'd have to wait a week to see his face when he realized I was serious. I could wait. At 2 p.m., I called David Park from a burner number I'd set up for my fake journalist identity. "David, thanks for making time," I said, using a slightly higher voice than my normal one. "I'm really interested in the technical architecture of ConnectSpace. Can you walk me through the development timeline?" David sounded eager to talk. Most CTOs love explaining their work. "We actually built the MVP pretty quickly," he said. "I came on about 2 months ago, and we launched in just 6 weeks. Marcus and Sienna had a clear vision, so it was mainly execution." 2 months? That's impressive. Were you there from the beginning?" "No, I was brought in later. I think Marcus had been working on it for about 6 months before that. He had some initial funding from a private investor to get started." My $30,000. "Must be exciting to work with the founding team," I said casually. "I saw it's just the 3 of you listed." "Yeah, Marcus, Sienna, and me, though I think there was someone else involved early on. Marcus mentioned a girlfriend who helped out initially, but she wasn't interested in staying with the company." "Wasn't interested." My hand tightened on the phone. "Do you know her name?" "Layla something. Marcus doesn't talk about her much. I got the impression it ended badly." I wondered what Marcus had told his team. What story had he spun about me? "How's the launch going?" I asked, changing subjects. David hesitated. Well, we're seeing some challenges. The response hasn't been quite what we expected, and there's been some confusion about our user numbers. Marcus told investors we had a huge beta testing group, but honestly, we had maybe a couple hundred people try it, and most didn't stick around." "That must be concerning." He paused. "Look, can this be off the record?" "Of course." "I'm a little worried. The app itself is solid from a technical standpoint, but it's not really offering anything new. And I've heard from a friend that some investors are asking questions about the metrics Marcus provided. Between you and me, I'm starting to think I should look for other opportunities. I don't want to be associated with a company that might have legal issues." After the call ended, I sat back and processed everything. David was already jumping ship. The technical lead of the company was worried about legal problems and planning his exit. ConnectSpace was failing. But here's what Marcus didn't understand. I didn't need his company to succeed for me to win. I just needed him to fail publicly, with documentation of exactly why. Part 3. The Trap. 3 days later, Marcus called me. I almost didn't answer. His name on my phone screen sent a spike of anxiety through my chest. But I'd been preparing for this moment. I accepted the call, but didn't speak first. "Layla?" His voice was tense. "We need to talk." "Do we?" "Look, I know things ended badly at the party. I could have handled that better." Could have handled that better? Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I was cruel and wrong." Just a vague acknowledgement that his execution could have been smoother. "What do you want, Marcus?" "I heard something disturbing. Did you actually hire a lawyer?" Word had gotten out. Good. "Yes," I said simply. "Jesus Christ, Layla. Really? You're going to sue me over a breakup?" "I'm suing you over $30,000 you stole from me." "I didn't steal anything. That money went into the business, just like I said it would." "Then you won't mind giving me the equity stake you promised." Silence. "It's not that simple," he said finally. "The company structure has changed. We have real investors now. I can't just hand out equity." "But you can promise it to me in writing, take my money, and then pretend I don't exist?" "You don't understand how startups work. Things evolve. Agreements change." "Written contracts don't change, Marcus." I could almost hear him grinding his teeth. "Fine. What do you want?" "I want what you promised me. 25% equity in ConnectSpace or my money back, with interest and damages." He laughed. Actually laughed. 25%? "Layla, be realistic. That stake is worth way more than $30,000 now." "Then you should have thought of that before you lied to me. I'm offering you $40,000. Right now. Take it and drop this insane lawsuit." $40,000. He just admitted the company was worth something, which meant there was money to chase. "I'll take it to trial," I said calmly. "You'll lose. You'll waste money on legal fees and end up with nothing." "Maybe, but your investors will find out you committed fraud. Tech blogs will write about how you stole from your fiancé. Every future investor will know you can't be trusted. Even if I lose, Marcus, you lose bigger." Another long silence. "You've changed," he said quietly. "This isn't you." "You're right. The old me would have cried and disappeared. Did you want the old me?" "I want you to be reasonable." "And I want a time machine so I never met you. We don't always get what we want." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline. Patricia had coached me on this call. "Don't negotiate," she'd said. "Don't waver. Make him understand you're serious." 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Sienna. We should talk. Coffee tomorrow at 10? The Grind on 5th Street." "Interesting." I showed the message to Patricia. "Don't go alone," she said immediately, "and record everything. Washington is a two-party consent state, so you need to tell her you're recording. But even if she doesn't consent, take notes immediately after." "Why would she want to meet me?" "Either she's trying to negotiate on Marcus's behalf, or—" Patricia paused. "Or she's realizing she's tied to a sinking ship and wants to save herself." The next morning, I arrived at the Grind 15 minutes early. I'd dressed carefully, jeans and a blazer, professional but not trying too hard. I looked like someone who had her life together. I felt like I was going to throw up. Sienna arrived exactly at 10, looking flawless in designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She ordered a matcha latte and sat across from me with a careful smile. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. Did I have a choice? Her smile faltered. "I know you probably hate me. I don't know you well enough to hate you." "Fair." She stirred her drink. "I wanted to explain some things. Marcus and I, we're not together. We're just business partners." The Internet seems to think otherwise. The Internet is wrong. Marcus encouraged those rumors because he thought it would help with investor optics. A power couple running a startup looks good, but we're not dating. I watched her carefully. Why are you telling me this? Because I found out yesterday that you're suing him, and I realized I don't actually know what happened between you two. Marcus said you had an amicable split, and you were fine with stepping away from the company. But lawsuits aren't amicable. He lied to you? Apparently, he lies to a lot of people. She pulled out her phone. I did some digging after I heard about the lawsuit. I found emails from 6 months ago where Marcus explicitly promised you 25% equity. He never told me you existed as an investor. Why do you care? Because I invested too, Sienna said quietly. Not as much as you, but I put in $20,000 3 months ago, and I was also promised equity, 15%. Marcus showed me incorporation papers with my name on them. My stomach dropped. He did the same thing to you. I'm starting to think he did it to multiple people. There's a guy named Tom who claims he invested $10,000, and Marcus's college roommate, Brett, mentioned putting in $5,000. Multiple investors, all promised equity, none of it legally documented. How much money has Marcus actually raised? I asked. I thought it was the $500,000 he told investors, but if he took money from you, me, Tom, Brett, and God knows who else, it could be more, and none of us are listed in the official company records. That's fraud. Yes, Sienna said, and I'm the COO of a fraudulent company. My name is on the website. When this explodes, and it's going to explode, I'm going down with him. She looked genuinely scared. Why are you really here, Sienna? She met my eyes. I want to help you destroy him, but I need immunity. Part 4. The Alliance. Sienna Chen wasn't my friend. She was a life raft grabbing onto another life raft in a sinking ocean. But I'd take it. We moved to a quieter corner of the coffee shop, and she opened her laptop. I have access to all of ConnectSpace's financial records, she said. Marcus made me COO, but he's terrible with organization. He keeps everything in a shared Google Drive because he's paranoid about cloud security. Ironic for someone building a tech company, but he never bothered to restrict my access. She pulled up a spreadsheet titled Investment Tracking. I leaned in, reading over her shoulder. The spreadsheet listed 16 different people. 16. Each entry had a name, an amount, and a date. The amounts ranged from $3,000 to $50,000. The total at the bottom made my head spin. $287,000. Marcus had raised nearly $300,000 from individuals. All of them promised equity that didn't exist. He told investors he raised $500,000, Sienna said. But $213,000 of that came from private individuals who aren't listed anywhere officially. The rest came from one legitimate VC firm that did actual due diligence and has real paperwork. Who are all these people? Friends, family, ex-girlfriends, college connections, people who trusted him. She scrolled down. Look at this entry. I read it. Name, Jennifer Huang. Amount, $45,000. Date, January 2023. Notes, promised 20% equity. Will handle after Series A. Who's Jennifer? I asked. His ex from college. They dated for 2 years. According to this note, he took her money 15 months ago and told her she'd get equity after Series A funding. That funding happened 4 months ago, and according to company records, she still isn't listed. I felt sick. He's been doing this for over a year, I whispered. At least? And Layla? Some of these people don't know they've been scammed. Look. She pointed to another entry. Name, Robert and Susan Reed. Amount, $50,000. Date, December 2022. Notes, Parents' Retirement Fund will repay with 10% interest once profitable. He took his parents' retirement money? And he has no way to pay it back. The app is failing. We're losing users every day. Our revenue is basically zero. The only thing keeping us afloat is what's left of that legitimate VC money, and that'll run out in 3 months. Sienna closed her laptop and looked at me directly. I was an idiot, she said. I got blinded by Marcus's charm and his pitch about changing the world. I wanted to be part of something big, and now I'm going to be part of a massive fraud case unless I can prove I didn't know what he was doing. Did you? I asked. No. Not until 3 days ago. I swear. I thought I was the only one besides that VC firm. When I found this spreadsheet, he left it open on the shared drive by accident. I almost threw up. She paused. You're going to win your lawsuit. Marcus is going to lose everything. But I need you to make sure everyone knows I wasn't part of this scheme. What are you offering in exchange? Everything, Sienna said. Every document, every email, every financial record. I'll testify. I'll cooperate fully with any investigation. I'll help you contact every single person on this list so they know they've been scammed. And I'll do it all before Marcus realizes I've turned on him. I sat back, processing. This was bigger than I'd thought. Marcus hadn't just betrayed me. He'd built an entire empire on lies, taking money from people who trusted him. His parents, ex-girlfriends, old friends, people who believed in him. And he'd done it all while smiling, charming, playing the role of the ambitious entrepreneur. How long do we have before he notices you've gone through his files? I asked. Maybe a week. He's been distracted with damage control. The app reviews are brutal, and he's scrambling to keep investors happy. But eventually, he'll check the access logs. Then we need to move fast. I called Patricia from the coffee shop. I have a witness and documents, I said. How quickly can you escalate this? Patricia's voice was sharp with interest. How good are the documents? Financial records showing 16 victims and nearly $300,000 in fraud, plus a witness who's willing to testify. I can file an emergency motion. If this is as big as you're saying, we can potentially get an injunction to freeze ConnectSpace's assets before Marcus moves money around. Can your witness come in today? I looked at Sienna. She nodded. We'll be there in an hour. Patricia's office felt different this time, more urgent. She had 2 associates with her, both taking notes as Sienna walked through everything. This is securities fraud on a significant scale, one of the associates said. The state attorney general's office will want this, so will the FBI if any money crossed state lines. Did it? Patricia asked Sienna. Yes, at least 4 of the investors on that list live out of state. Marcus pitched them over Zoom and had them wire money to the company account. Patricia smiled grimly. Wire fraud, federal jurisdiction. She turned to me. Layla, you understand what this means? Your case just became much bigger than one woman suing her ex-fiancé. You're the first domino, but when this falls, it's going to take down a lot more than just Marcus. His whole company? His whole life. Criminal charges, financial ruin, possibly jail time depending on how aggressive prosecutors are. Everyone associated with ConnectSpace will be investigated. It's going to be a circus. I thought about Marcus's face at that launch party, his casual cruelty, the champagne, the laughter. Good, I said. Patricia spent the next 2 hours drafting documents. She filed an amended civil lawsuit that included all 16 victims, most of whom didn't even know they were victims yet. She prepared a detailed complaint for the State Securities Board, and she drafted a letter to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. This will hit public records by tomorrow morning, Patricia said. Once it does, every tech blog in the city will cover it. Marcus Reed won't be able to hide. What about his parents? I asked. They invested $50,000. They're victims, too. They are, but Layla, you need to be prepared. Some people will blame you for exposing this. Marcus's family might see you as vindictive rather than as someone seeking justice. I don't care what they think. You say that now, Patricia said gently. But when his mother calls you crying, or when his father shows up at your door, it'll be harder than you expect. I didn't care. I couldn't care. Because if I started feeling sorry for the people Marcus had hurt, I'd have to feel sorry for myself. And I'd cried enough. That night, I did something I'd been avoiding. I called Jennifer Huang, the ex-girlfriend who'd invested $45,000. A woman answered on the third ring. Hello? Is this Jennifer Huang? Yes? Who's this? My name is Layla Martinez. I don't know you, but we have something in common. We both trusted Marcus Reed. Long pause. How did you get this number? It's a long story, but Jennifer, I need to tell you something. Did Marcus ever return your investment in Connect Space? Another pause, longer this time. Why are you asking about that? Because he took my money too, $30,000. He promised me equity and then broke up with me at his launch party. And I found out I'm not the only one. There are at least 16 people he's scammed. I heard her breathing on the other end, fast, sharp breaths. Jennifer? I thought it was just me, she whispered. I thought I was the idiot who believed him. You're not. We all believed him. That's what he's good at. She started crying. I let her cry, staying silent on the line. Finally, she said, He told me he'd pay me back. He swore. That money was from my grandmother's inheritance. It was supposed to be for a house, for my future. And Marcus said his company would make me rich, that I was getting in on the ground floor of something huge. When did you invest? 15 months ago. We'd been broken up for 6 months, but he called me out of nowhere. Said he missed me, that he'd made mistakes, that he was sorry. We met for coffee, and he pitched me on Connect Space. He made it sound so real, so possible. I wrote him a check that same day. The pattern was clear. Marcus found vulnerable people who cared about him, rekindled their trust, and then took their money. Jennifer, I'm filing a lawsuit. My lawyer is bringing in criminal prosecutors. Marcus is going to face consequences for this, but I need victims to come forward. Would you be willing to testify? Will I get my money back? I thought about what Patricia had said. I don't know. The company is failing. There might not be much money left. But if we don't fight, he'll get away with it. He'll do this to someone else. I'll testify, Jennifer said. I want him to know what he did to me. I want everyone to know. After hanging up with Jennifer, I called 3 more people from Sienna's list. All of them had similar stories. Marcus had approached them when they were vulnerable, after breakups, during career transitions, when they just received inheritances or bonuses. He'd made them feel special, chosen, like they were getting access to an exclusive opportunity. And then he'd vanished with their money. By midnight, I had 7 people willing to testify. By the next morning, the number would grow to 15. Because that's the thing about scammers. They rely on silence. They rely on victims being too embarrassed to speak up, too isolated to find each other. But once one person breaks the silence, everyone starts talking. Part 5. The Fall. The article dropped at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday. Tech City News. Connect Space founder accused of defrauding multiple investors in elaborate scheme. I saw it the moment I woke up. Patricia had sent me the link with a single word. Boom. The article was devastating. It detailed the lawsuit, named 16 victims, included quotes from Jennifer Huang and 2 others who'd agreed to speak publicly. It outlined the fake incorporation papers, the missing equity, the personal relationships Marcus had exploited. And it included a statement from Sienna Chen, formally resigning as COO and cooperating with investigators. By 8 a.m., the article had been picked up by 5 major tech blogs. By 9 a.m., Marcus's investors were releasing statements about conducting internal reviews. By 10 a.m., Yar Connect Space scam was trending on Twitter. I watched it unfold from my laptop, refreshing news sites every few minutes. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanted interviews. Other victims called to share their stories. 3 different lawyers reached out, offering to represent additional plaintiffs. And at 11:23 a.m., Marcus called me. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. On the 4th call, I answered. "What did you do?" he screamed. Not hello, not can we talk, just raw rage. "I filed a lawsuit," I said calmly. "You knew I was doing that. You went to the press. You ruined me." "No, Marcus, you ruined yourself. I just made sure people knew about it. My parents are calling me crying. My investors are threatening to sue. The FBI called my lawyer this morning. The FBI, Layla." "Sounds like consequences. I'm going to lose everything because you couldn't let go of $30,000. "This was never about the money," I said. "This was about you thinking you could treat people like they're disposable. Your parents, your ex-girlfriends, me. You took from everyone who loved you, and you felt nothing. I built something. ConnectSpace was going to be huge." "ConnectSpace was a lie. The app is terrible. Your user numbers are fake. You stole from 16 people to fund a fantasy." "I was going to pay everyone back," his voice cracked. "Once we hit profitability, I was going to fix everything. You didn't give me the chance. You had 6 months to fix it with me. You chose a champagne party instead." Silence, then quieter. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught." "Layla, please, can we meet? Talk about this? I can make this right." "It's too late." "I'm begging you. Call off the lawyers. Tell people it was a misunderstanding. I'll pay you back, I swear." "With what money, Marcus? Your company is worthless." "I'll figure it out. Just please." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from guilt, from relief. 2 weeks later, the dominoes continued falling. The FBI opened a formal investigation into wire fraud and securities violations. ConnectSpace's single legitimate VC investor sued Marcus for misrepresentation and demanded their money back. David Park, the CTO, resigned and immediately joined a competitor. Marcus's parents hired their own lawyer and joined the civil lawsuit against their son. That detail broke my heart a little. No matter what Marcus had done, seeing his parents forced to sue him to recover their retirement fund felt tragic. But Sienna was right. Everyone loses when fraud collapses. The app itself was pulled from the store after 2 weeks of one-star reviews and accusations that it was collecting user data without proper disclosure. Marcus locked down his social media, but the internet had already archived everything. Screenshots of his launch party, including the champagne being poured over my head, circulated with captions like, "This aged poorly," and "Karma works fast." I didn't engage. I didn't comment. I just watched. Patricia kept me updated on the legal proceedings. "The state is moving forward with criminal charges," she told me. "Probably multiple counts of fraud and theft. If convicted, he's looking at several years in prison." "Will I get my money back?" "Eventually, yes. Between his personal assets and the company accounts, there's enough to pay back most of the victims. You'll probably see your full $30,000 plus legal fees. But it'll take time." "How much time?" "Months, maybe a year. These cases move slowly." I could wait. I'd already waited 3 years believing in Marcus's lies. I could wait a little longer for truth to pay out. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after everything exploded, I was working at my favorite coffee shop when someone sat down across from me. Sienna. "Is this weird?" she asked. "Completely." She smiled slightly. "I wanted to say thank you for including me in the lawsuit as a victim instead of a co-conspirator. My lawyer says that's going to make a huge difference." "You helped me. I helped you." "Still, I know I wasn't exactly innocent. I benefited from Marcus's company, even if I didn't know how he funded it." "Do you regret it?" I asked, "getting involved with him?" Sienna thought about it. "I regret not asking more questions. I saw red flags, the disorganization, the vague answers about funding, the way he avoided putting things in writing. But I wanted so badly to be part of something successful that I ignored my instincts. I know the feeling. Marcus had this way of making you feel special, right? Like you were the only person who really understood his vision, like you were in on this exclusive secret that was going to change everything. And it turns out we all felt that way, I said. We all thought we were special. That was the con. Sienna nodded. I'm leaving tech for a while, taking some time to figure out what I actually want to do instead of just chasing the next big startup. What will you do? My family has a restaurant in Portland. I might go work there for a bit, reconnect with something real. After Sienna left, I sat alone with my coffee and opened my laptop. I'd been avoiding social media, but curiosity finally won. Marcus's Instagram was private now, but his public Twitter account was still up. His last tweet, posted 3 weeks ago, right before everything collapsed, read, "Sometimes you have to make hard decisions to build something great. Not everyone will understand, but the ones who matter will." Entrepreneur life. Schachter, no regrets. No regrets. He'd posted that the night after humiliating me at his launch party. The tweet had 847 replies now, all of them variations of "this aged like milk" and "tell that to the FBI." I closed the app. I didn't need to watch him suffer anymore. I'd won. 6 months later, epilogue. The coffee shop was called Start Again, which felt a little too on the nose, but I loved it anyway. I'd opened it 3 months ago with money from a small business loan, and the $30,000 Patricia had successfully recovered from Marcus's frozen accounts. My grandmother would have liked knowing her money eventually funded my dream instead of someone else's lie. The space was small, just 12 tables and a corner bar. But it was mine. I designed the logo myself, painted the mural on the back wall, and personally interviewed every barista I hired. We specialized in pour-over coffee and homemade pastries. And somehow, against all odds, we were profitable. Not rich, but stable, growing, real. Jennifer Huang came by sometimes. She'd moved to the city recently and had become an unexpected friend. We'd bonded over our shared Marcus trauma, but we'd stayed friends because we genuinely liked each other. "Your raspberry scone game is elite," she said, sitting at the corner table where I was updating the schedule. "I'm convinced this is what heaven tastes like." "My mom's recipe," I said. "She always told me I should open a cafe. Guess she was right." "How's the legal stuff going?" "Almost done. Patricia says the criminal trial is set for next month. Marcus pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence, so it's just sentencing now." "How much time is he getting?" "Probably 3 to 5 years, plus restitution to all 16 victims. His lawyer tried to argue that he had entrepreneurial intentions and just got overwhelmed, but the judge wasn't buying it." Jennifer nodded slowly. "His parents?" "They got their money back. They're not talking to him anymore." "That's heartbreaking." "Yeah," I agreed, "but also necessary, maybe." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Do you ever think about him?" Jennifer asked. "Like, do you miss who you thought he was?" I considered the question. "Sometimes I miss believing in something that felt bigger than myself, but I don't miss him. The person I loved didn't really exist." "Yeah," she said softly. "Same." My phone buzzed, a text from my mom. "Proud of you, Mija. Your grandmother would be too." I smiled. The door opened and a group of college students came in, laughing and talking about their upcoming exams. One of them noticed the mural I'd painted, a phoenix rising from ashes made of coffee beans, and took a photo. "This place is gorgeous," she said to her friend. "I love the vibe." Start Again wasn't just a coffee shop. It was proof that you could take something broken and build something beautiful. That betrayal didn't have to define you. That $30,000 invested in the wrong person could become $30,000 invested in yourself. And that revenge wasn't about destruction, though the legal consequences for Marcus felt deserved. Real revenge was sitting in your own business, drinking coffee you brewed yourself, surrounded by people you chose, knowing you'd survived someone's worst, and came out stronger. I never saw Marcus again after his trial. I heard he moved to a different state after serving his sentence, working some normal job under a different name. His LinkedIn was deleted. His social media vanished. He became exactly what he'd made me feel like at that launch party. Invisible. But I didn't need to see him humiliated anymore. I'd already moved on. Because here's the truth about betrayal. It only destroys you if you let it. Marcus thought he'd taken my future when he took my money. Instead, he gave me something unexpected. Clarity. Clarity about who I was without him. Clarity about what I actually wanted. Clarity about the difference between building dreams with someone and building someone else's dream. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about proving they were never necessary to your happiness in the first place. I took a sip of my coffee, perfectly brewed, exactly how I liked it, and I smiled, because I'd started again. And this time, I was building something real.